Oh yeah, stretch
How
it
you doing,
out.
guy?
Oh man, I feel old.
Uh-oh. 44 is not as good as 43?
Oh, I don't know, man. Between like energy levels, this knee thing is like a problem. I
What do you got
I don't
going on
know.
with your knee?
Me and Mrs. went for a hike like the other week, and like she's got this ankle thing. Like every time she walks, her ankle clicks and makes a noise. So my knee was sort of doing that, and it wasn't hurting at the time. And like I'm sort of used to the feeling. Sometimes like mountain biking and stuff like that, which I haven't done in a long ass time. But um, yeah, the next day, man, I was hobbling like Igor,
Hmm.
and she gave me like some magnesium and whatever fancy stuff, and I was kind of taking it easy around pits, right? Like it kind of subsided because I wasn't, I guess, as mobile and stuff. And then we went away last weekend to celebrate like my belated birthday because we had so much going on at the time of my actual birthday. So I went up to Waco, did the Magnolia table. So, Chip and Joanna Gaines from the Fixer Upper show on HDTV there, they pretty much own the damn town. So we tried out the breakfast spot, which was phenomenal. And
Yeah.
then, and man, you got to book that shit like weeks in advance. Like it's probably been open for like 5 years or some shit. And like, still, it's like, you better have
Packed.
a reservation or you're screwed. But Waco, I think, is like a pretty hot, I guess, tourist trap, right? Because if you're heading south down 35 from Dallas, you're heading to Austin or San Antonio or whatever it is, Waco's there. So, yeah, that was good. Then we hit up the zoo, Waco Zoo. So, of course, you're walking around and doing everything. And then, yeah, we stayed at the 1928 hotel. So it was like an old school building in Waco that they renovated. So this was all like we were trying to check out all the Chip and Joanna stuff. Um, so hotel
Oh,
was,
they renoed it.
yeah. So I think it opened late last year, and same thing. Like I was like, oh, it'd be a cool thing like to check out. And it's like booked, 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 booked. And of all weekends, which it didn't, we never even put two and two together. It was Easter weekend, right? So technically we stayed on Good Friday, which you'd think a lot of people are traveling and prices would be up, but it was a pretty good price. We got, I guess, an in between room.
Hmm.
And man, like I'd say very close to like Bellagio, but
Hmm.
like it's smaller, right? Like it's more boutique-ish. Yeah, the restaurants were good, little cafe thing, the library. So like obviously you see it all on the show when they did it. But yeah, it was real nice stay. And then checked out the old Dr. Pepper Museum. Learned about some soda.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, so
Oh, okay.
doc,
Hold on. Let's stay
yeah,
on the knee for a sec, though. Let's pause Dr. Pepper.
yeah.
So the knee starts acting up because you're putting on the miles with the wife.
Yeah, yeah. So all this walking around, and then we get back, and I trying to get back to normal duties, and yeah, it was Monday was rough, and it was weird because I was wearing my knee brace too when we went walking because I'm like, if I put the brace on, maybe it'll help. And Monday I wore the brace, and by the end of the day, dude, like it's sort of like you want to just grab your leg and lift it. So you know what I mean?
Right.
Instead of actually using your leg. And I think Tuesday I wore it, and then I was noticing, I'm like, man, I'm gonna leave this brace off yesterday and today. And it's one of those things where as long as you'll know this, or actually a lot of guys that work on their cars, when you're leaning over your engine
Yeah.
bay for an extended period of time and then you come back and your knee, it's almost like your knees
Hy-
backwards, right?
Hyperextended. Yeah.
When you're working. So that's the issue. Like tenfold, that is what is aggravating it. Because if I keep it bent, or you know what I mean, you sit down and I can like stretch it out and do all that stuff, I can get back up, and like if I'm careful on how I'm walking, then I'm doing okay. So I don't know what's
Where
wrong,
do you
dude. It's one of those damn things, but I'll just keep putting some CBD and magnesium and shit on it and take it easy and try not to overextend it.
Where do you get the pain in your knee? Like inside, outside, middle?
Kind of like through both sides. Like I
Oh,
almost feel like,
like the hinge.
yeah, like a little bit of my
Right.
kneecap. Like I'm trying to extend it right now and figure, why have you gone through some knee stuff?
Well, never like, surgery related or anything, but I had every once in a while I get like the outside of my knee will act up on me on my right knee, and then I never really knew why. And then one year I got an elk draw in this area of Alberta that it's like foot traffic or horse is your only way in and out of there. So I walked in and out of that place 100 times, and then I was talking to a buddy one day who's he team ropes, and he says, "Gare, I got a couple of young horses that I got to put some miles on. Like, I'll come down and we'll go ride them in that backcountry, right?" So I thought, "Fuck, let's do it." Well, anyway, we put a lot of miles on these ponies, and all of a sudden, we'd get back to camp at night, and all of a sudden, the outside of my knee was giving me this grief, and I was getting it in both knees. So I'm like, "What the fuck? There must be something with how I'm kind of like bow legging myself around this horse, right?"
Right.
And anyway, years went on. I didn't really know how or why this thing would come up on me. And then I had a friend that was like a physio guy. And he's like, "You ever heard of an IT band?" I'm like, "Nope." He's like, "Well, it's kind of like what hurts when you get a Charlie horse in the leg. Like it's that outside, whatever, like piece of trim essentially that runs down from like your hip bone to your knee." And he goes, "You got tight IT bands." I'm like, "What causes that?" He's like, "Well, just, our sedimentary lives, like sitting and whatever, essentially not using your body for what it's should be used for." And so I got one of those foam rollers, like a physio style foam roller, and whatever, you kind of get yourself cockeyed sideways, laying on the floor, and roll yourself back and forth on that roller. It like you almost need a hockey puck in your teeth. It hurts like a motherfucker, but
So you're doing that
instant relief.
on the side of your thigh.
Yeah.
You're rolling on
Essentially,
that.
like where your buddy'd walk by in high school and drill you,
Yeah.
you roll that whole area from knee right up into your ass.
Right. Well, the other side of it too is I'm wondering if like the chemo is not allowing my body to like heal the way that it normally would.
True.
So that's the other kind of element to all of this because yeah, it's I'm thankful that the weekend went as good as it did because I was a little fearful because yeah, after the last round it kind of knocked me on my ass. So we'll see.
Well,
4 more to go.
yeah, no, you're on the home stretch there, bud, which is good. I'm gonna see if I can find this. My buddy was over recently. He's a big health nut. Um, loves shit that's off the beaten path. Oh yeah, here it is. Perfect. Okay, I was gonna say shit. I can't remember the name of this thing, but I'll tell you all about it and whatever. So he had heard about this on a podcast or something, and I can't remember how he did it, but he buggered his shoulder up real bad, which I think every guy's had a shoulder problem at one point in their life, right? Or maybe just it stays like all of the rest of us old fuckers, right? And never goes away. Well, anyway, he goes, "I had heard about this deal. I think they call it like the family of medicine, if you will, is called peptides." And he
Okay.
goes, "I heard about this one called BPC 157. Sounds like something off the fucking chart of elements. You know what I mean?"
Yeah.
And or periodic table. That's the one I was looking for.
I
So
knew what you meant.
yeah. So he says, everyone that I had heard talk about this stuff swore by it. And they're like, it's almost as if, you've waved a magic wand and you can literally fix like a buggered shoulder, or it essentially goes to the area that you're buggered in. So it does you no good to just take this shit as a daily supplement. It's like when something goes wrong, you take it, which is kind of right up every guy's alley, right?
Yeah.
So he goes, fuck it, right? Like my shoulder was pooched. And he's a firefighter. He needs to work. So he gave it a go. And I think, yeah, he had also been to a physio, um, whatever, a physiotherapist.
Mm.
And they're like, oh, dude, you're down for weeks. Like you've tore something. This is not good, whatever. So he's like, all right, I'm throwing everything at the wall. He gets some of this shit, takes it. He goes, Gare, I kid you not, in one fucking day, I started feeling better. And he goes, by like day 3 or 4, I was like a brand new baby, like shoulders going everywhere, whatever. And he's like, I literally had to bring my arm out of bed with me every morning prior to that.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. So not that we should start giving medical advice on this fucking thing, but whenever somebody's got something going on, right? You gotta whatever throw the advice out there, I guess.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
So I'll send you the link on that shit. I found it on Amazon. My
Okay.
buddy was telling me he got it at some health food store, and you had to like give the guy like the proper handshake and the right wink and everything, and then he would get you the stuff because I guess they're not allowed to sell it. It's probably a Canadian thing more than anything,
Right.
um, but yeah, I found it on Amazon. So I'm like, I just don't have nothing really wrong with me right now, or I'd give it a go myself.
There you go. Well,
Yeah,
yeah. So speaking of doctors, right? So Dr. Pepper,
there you
founded in
go.
Waco. Founded in Waco. Didn't know. I've never really been a huge soda guy. Like,
Yeah,
it's
same.
like some people, you know what I mean? Like they need their Coke or they need their Pepsi or they need whatever it is, but just it was never really me. Like, yeah, and rum or whiskey or in a mixed drink maybe. But so anyways, cool spot, right? Original buildings and Waco did have like a super nasty tornado. It was like an F5. I forget what year it happened, and it went like right through the downtown. And
Hmm.
so I guess that's what's kind of interesting about the town because obviously it survived that. There's some old stuff, there's some new stuff, and everything else. But it was really neat to like read up on like the whole soda water thing because they thought it had like healing properties and just like the whole evolution of or sparkling water and or carbonated water and all these outfits that they would use to actually carbonate the stuff. And the original well is still in the building that they used to get the water from. Like obviously it's
Huh.
not in service anymore, but you can see down quite a ways. And yeah, like 23 ingredients. I don't know. It was like I kind of feel because to me it's like cherry, you know what I mean, or maybe like an amaretto-ish flavor or whatever it might be, right? In Pepsi or Coke. So I'm like 23. I'm like, that's wonder how many you could pull out and get the same flavor or not know the difference.
Yeah.
So
Well, and there's I know I I've heard a few of these old wives' tales, which I don't think this one is. I think it's true. Like Coca-Cola actually at one point in time had cocaine in it. It
yeah.
was made with the coca leaf.
Well, that was you know what I mean? So the drugstore sold the sodas and like that's what, you know what I mean? That the guy worked at the drugstore and he was playing around with flavors and everything else. And I think one of the most interesting parts was seeing all of the like no sugar options like through evolution and how like they all ended up getting banned over time. So it's sort of like even today, Nutri Sweet or whatever the hell, that is used. I don't even know the names because like I just stay away from the shit. Like to me, it's
Yep.
like buy a Mexican cola with proper cane sugar in it and just, you know what I mean? Take it and
Yeah.
deal with it if that's what you're gonna drink. Cause like anything else is just yeah, it's fabricated out of some shit that's not natural by any means.
No. Liquid cardboard.
Yeah, and going back to your point, right? Like Coca-Cola back in the day, like how many ingredients, what were they? And like, yeah, pure cocaine and like that little amount, I'm sure was, you know what I mean? No big deal. Enough to
Well,
get you hooked or whatever it is. And but like nowadays, it's like, man, you don't want to touch Like God knows, it's like cocaine's got 23 ingredients in it now.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it wasn't cocaine like a medicine at one point in time too?
Yeah, like I know my grandmother actually, so she had like some sinus stuff, and I know like now they do like the some like inflatable balloons or stuff to like open up your nasal cavity, or like they used to drill them, but my grandmother, they actually placed cocaine up in there to, I guess, like eat away at whatever, um,
Really?
for the nasal canal or something. So I remember, yeah, she told me that story. Like, oh, I know they use cocaine in my nose to do this and that and whatever. And I'm just like, what? You know?
Jesus. Yeah, and I mean that wow, a lot of questions there. I mean, maybe grandma was just cooking up a real good story and having a real good time.
Yeah, and that was the justification, right? Like, shit.
Yeah. So what was the so all it was with Dr. Pepper was a guy just farting around with ingredients and he just cooked up this brew and everybody liked it.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, and I think that was, and his name wasn't Pepper, it was something else. And I want to say he was like originally from Alabama or something and just moved to Texas. And like he was a proper doctor or whatever,
Huh.
chemist, whatever it would be. And yeah, he came up with this flavor. And it's interesting to see all the other flavors that were made over, because it goes on about ginger ale, but then it's like apple soda and like pineapple soda and like um man, there's some really odd shit. Probably it was one of those things, right? We left our phones off. We weren't really taking pictures. We were trying to actually like enjoy everything.
Yeah.
Um, so you know what I mean? And it's funny how you see all those things, and then, well, even as a kid, I remember like Pepsi Clear, Pepsi
Yeah.
Lime, or Pepsi Lemon, and or Pepsi Twist, or all these other weird things. And they show everything else, not just Dr. Pepper. So you see all the old cans and bottles and everything else,
Cool.
the bottling machines that they used. But yeah, it's interesting, out of all the flavors that are out there, how popular, like it's just like, no, it's Pepsi, it's Coke, it's Dr. Pepper, maybe some Orange Crush or Fanta, Mountain Dew, which Mountain Dew is a weird one to me. Like, I feel like there's some better flavor options out there than what Mountain Dew ever offered. But like, that's
Yeah,
just
but
me. Like, Lewis loved the shit as a kid, like, so I don't know.
yeah, Mountain Dew definitely has the cult following though, right? And
Yeah.
they've almost followed the, like Red Bull Monster model and gotten into extreme sports with it and stuff.
And they got
Um,
like the blue Mountain Dews and reds and this
yeah.
weird odd shit that I'm sure is like banned in every other country, but it's okay here.
Yeah. Well, this reminds me, I had a friend that worked for Monster and much like you and going to the Dr. Pepper Museum, right? Like I got the same curious mind. So I'm like, man, I want to know more about this whole like Monster Energy, especially from like the business perspective. Like, let's talk costs. I'm like, do you know the costs of a can of this shit? Because I know what it costs the consumer. I mean, and it's
Yeah.
absolute highway robbery. He's like, oh yeah, we talk about it all the time. Like it's a constant discussion in our meetings. And he goes, believe it or not, it costs less than a penny to create a whole can of Monster.
Damn.
However, they break the cost down in fractions of a penny. So, and actually, I probably should have I told this story backwards, because the way he laid it all out, he goes, the number one cost is sugar, and he
Mm.
goes, it's like 70% of the cost, right? And then you work your way down from there. And then where it got really interesting for me is they break down the different components of a can. And I'm like, fuck, I never really thought about that, right? Like, sure, there'd be a bottom, there'd be the whole round area, the top, the cracker, the like, it's all
Yeah.
separate pieces that amalgamate into one. And they break each one of those costs down. And then, yeah, the punchline of the story is it costs less than a penny to create one can.
Well, I mean, I guess, or allows for the marketing, right? Because a lot of that stuff is given away at so many events, like just handing out. You think about the Red Bull girls driving around and handing out cans of that stuff. So um, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And like, even like water and like the fancy ones. Like I know you're on
Oh
the
yeah.
was it the pH or the alkaline or
Yep.
whatever ones, and then like this liquid death thing that's like the energy drink of, well, like the branding and everything else, like, right? Like it just, you see the cans and you see the brand and you're like, it's just water.
Yeah.
It's really interesting on like how they're playing off like it's something else or something super fancy, or like you're drinking an IPA, but it's just carbonated water with some flavor in it. And again,
Yeah.
whatever, it's your $2, $3, $4 a can, depending which robbery situation you're in at a gas station or an airport. Um, just unreal.
Yeah. I know that after hearing all that, like the business model that we see from a distance, on TV with your sponsored riders and this, that, and the other thing, it starts making more sense how they can splash all this money around when you think of the markup on a less than a 1 cent can of Monster, right? Uh, it's a really interesting business model, one that, yeah, I don't know. Like, there's obviously a massive amount of upfront costs, right? Especially if you want to produce this shit on mass. Or, I mean, maybe it's like the booze industry where, like, I know wineries around us, there'll be a branded wine or whatever, but it's actually made at one of the bigger wineries,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And they just kind of apply their recipe and their format and whatever. But yeah, I know it blew my fucking mind to think that
Well,
like less than a penny.
but that's technically just ingredient cost, right?
Uh, well, I guess that would be like your hard costs to see a can sitting on the counter. Yeah, we're not talking CEO salary and shit in there, right?
Yeah, like cost of production, your like the equipment, obviously the
Mhm.
canning process and all that other stuff. But um, man, it's still crazy because even if the other stuff, right, maybe it's 2 cents or a nickel or a quarter or whatever,
Yeah.
over the millions and millions of cans that are produced.
Yep.
So yeah, it's
That's where
crazy.
my mind went too. Like you think, holy shit, this all revolves around like for what it's worth, like a very simple product. But yeah, you can get that minute with one product. And I mean, I would probably venture a guess and say that like probably 70% of their overall profit goes towards promotional shit, marketing, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
throwing big money at these events.
Oh, true.
So,
And like all the banners and billboards and whatever, the
oh,
Mini Coopers retrofitted with the Red Bull shit and everything else. Like, yeah, it's pretty. Like it's amazing how you would almost think it's the other way, right? Like your product's really expensive and like you got to like cut your costs everywhere else. Where this one, it's like the product is dirt cheap and you got to like sell it. You need the marketing,
yep.
you need whatever. You're not going to move. This is all volume. I think that's probably it, right? It's volume, not necessarily like a qualitative thing.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I got an interesting Fox story for you. So, I was sending you a note, or we were going back and forth trying to figure out what time we were doing this tonight. And I said, I got a guy coming by to get my seats, the stock ones out of the coop. So the guy seemed like a bit of a beauty, like good guy, just going back and forth on the messaging app and stuff. But anyway, shows up, we get to bullshit in cars, and he goes, yeah, you know what, my car's got a pretty neat story. Bought it original in 1993, so owned it the whole time. uh it He goes, the only knock on it that I somewhat regretted and still do to this day, hence the reason I'm buying your gray seats, is it had red interior. He goes, but in 93, he goes, I wanted a white GT and, a gray or black interior. All I could find was red. And he goes, there was not a single Mustang in like 1,000 miles in any direction that I could get my hands on otherwise. So I get this white GT, red interior.
Which would be like everything would be red. The steering wheel's red, all the dash and everything would be red being a 93.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not
Oh
like you
yeah,
got
that's
a little bit of black to split it up. Like, could you imagine like a red? I don't even know if I've seen a red leather wrapped steering wheel.
I haven't in person. I've only seen photos.
Yeah.
So yeah, gets this car. He goes, for what it's worth, I drove the absolute bag off of this poor old thing. I think he said he might have put exhaust on it. Other than that, like stock air filter, like just drove the shit out of it. Put 250,000 clicks on it, gets older, parks it for a bit. And he was storing it inside and lives out on a little bit of an acreage thing. He said, there was a winter where on his shop, he had a whole pile of snow that he was worried about like caving the roof in, needed to get up there and move it off the roof. So he's like, rather than having the roof cave in on my car, I thought it's not supposed to snow for a couple days. I'll just pull the car out until I can get the snow off the roof of the shop. So while it's out there, the car ends up getting damaged, but he didn't really know like how. Well, yeah, even how didn't make sense to him until he started understanding the story. So turns out there was a guy that lived on an acreage just kind of across the main road from him. And he goes, I never knew the guy, but I've got some equipment and shit. He goes, I used to go and plow his driveway for him, whatever. And then as I'd come to find out, only after seeing the damage that was done to my car, apparently this guy like ran out of fucking meds or something and went completely AWOL and took an axe to his car. Not any axe either, like a firefighter's axe.
So this
Yeah,
guy
like with the fucking hook off the
walked
back of it and
across the
stuff.
street with an axe in the hand, like I'm gonna go fuck some shit up.
Yep. I guess took the axe to his enclosed trailer, like just wreaked havoc. And he says to me, he goes, you probably heard about this. It was on the news. I'm like, I don't remember anything about this. I think it was a handful of years ago too. And plus I try not to pay too much attention to the daily news. Uh, he goes, yeah, the cop showed up and like he was putting up enough of a fight, like they ended him on location. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah. So not good. And anyway, the story went on from there. So he said, he sort of sat on it for a bit and then found a guy to do the body work and shows up and everything looks right. There's lots of nice cars in there, good work going on, everything's busy. Fucking surprise, surprise. The guy starts running out of money and starts skidding this guy along, right? Next thing you know, he's got this car that looks like it was painted in the dark. Like just apparently it needed a floor pan on the driver's side. And it wasn't until he actually got it out of body shop jail that he pulled the carpet up and realized this, but like 4 tacks and seam sealer. It's all that was holding that floor pan in. Yeah. Anyway, such a good dude. We bullshitted for a while. And I mean, yeah, he still seemed to have a smile on his face because he told me a couple other stories about getting jerked around on like a C10 pickup that he had worked on and all kinds of face plants. I said, well, shit, I hope these seats don't fall apart on you.
Yeah.
Christ, where your luck's going.
Oh, what'd you end up getting for them?
1,500.
Nice.
Which, you know what, man? He hit me up like 3 minutes after it was posted. And I probably had another, 10 guys.
Damn.
I had a guy hit me up while this guy was on his way to me too. Dude, I'll be right there. I'll get him. I'm like, the guy's coming. I can't do that to him.
Damn, man. Yeah, I guess. Well, maybe some spring fever and stuff like that. But um, yeah,
When you
it's.
think
I
about
just
it, like,
assumed, right? Because like when you asked me in my head, I was like, okay, well, down here, right? And of course, I'm thinking black. Like I sold a set of gray buckets, just like yours. I think I got 800 for them, right? So that's sort of where I was going off the math, like 800 plus 400 for your rear cover. $1,200 US, around 1,500 Canadian, give or take.
Yeah.
And but yeah, because like the reality is, if anybody is going to offer you less than what TMI seat covers, which we know how that goes,
Yeah.
um, you know what I mean? It shouldn't. It should, and because you're getting the whole seat, right? You're getting, obviously you kept your tracks, which good on you for that. But yeah, that shit isn't cheap. Like if you're gonna get something restitched up. So
That's the way I looked at it too, right? And I mean, uh even I considered, like how would I feel if the tables were turned? And I'm like, I think that's fair money. Like when you look at it, and I mean they
yeah,
were in really good shape, like um for what that's all worth, especially for a car with whatever 45,000 miles on it kind of thing, like um lightly used, maybe a couple of beers spilt on them, you know what I mean? But like um definitely there's way worse seats out there. Like I think anyone that was picking those up would have felt good about the purchase. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well, good.
They weren't you know,
So wait
breaking
a
the bank.
second. This guy's got a GT, but he bought everything with your coupe rear, so now he still needs to find some hatch rear.
Okay, good. Yeah, you're paying attention here. So he even brought this up when he was here. He goes, yeah, actually I don't even need the rears. I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like whatever. I don't either. So I can have fun, you know?
Well, it'd be good. Like he can recoup some money back then, or
Yeah,
do a
true.
trade deal or something for somebody that has seats the other way. So,
Yeah.
oh, good stuff, man. It's
Yeah.
nice when you get those types of deals off marketplace, and you know what I mean, just quick and easy, especially when it's like a higher dollar item. And you're not, you know what I mean, fighting over a $50 piece.
Well, it's true. And you know what? Like, not to talk shit about it, anyone or whatever, but I won't mention any names. Not that it even matters. I don't even know the guy. But I had another guy, throw a stink bid at me. And I'm like, listen, dude, I already got a guy that's interested. So, oh, okay. No counter offer or whatever. And I'm like, look, I'm not into playing that game or whatever, right? We're not going to go back and forth on $10 increments here. You know what I mean? And I said, yeah, and plus I don't like doing this anyway, so like, whatever. I'm just really hopeful that this guy shows up. Okay, well, let me know if he doesn't. And anyway, as life happens, right? The guy was going to come Monday, and then, or no, he was going to come Tuesday, and then I didn't hear from him Wednesday, and then I reached out to him this morning, like, hey man, I got people knocking on my door here. No pressure, but like, just let me know. You were the one that said you were coming. And anyway, then I get a fucking message from the same guy, like the back and forth guy.
Yeah,
And he's like, did they sell yet? I'm like, listen, would you fuck off already? Like, if you want them that bad, like you know, don't stink bid me for starters,
yeah.
you know? Like, what are you doing?
Oh, well,
Well,
I
and then
know
he goes,
exactly
yeah,
what
because
you
I
mean.
noticed the ad was still up. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is getting borderline creepy, bud. Like, fuck off.
Wonder if he was just trying to like get them to resell them.
Oh, good point. Yeah, the old, running a little Facebook business, deal, yeah,
Yeah. So,
maybe.
well, you never know these days, man.
Well, and it's one of those things, like, I don't know. I don't know that I've ever sold something where, it was one of those, like, holy shit, like, the bank's knocking on my door. So, like, and that's obviously not a good place to sell things from. So I've been fortunate enough to be on the other end of it. It's like, listen, man, I don't need this shit. Like, for what it's worth, I don't even want to sell them anymore. Like, just leave me alone, you know? Um, but yeah, anyway, I don't know. The online shopping world is, as we all know, very interesting.
Man, I gotta say, like my blue M5, when I had that up, um, I couldn't believe like the crazy offers, like especially like the amount of people that want to trade. And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I have whatever, this shit or that. There was all shit. It was like the one guy maybe had a different, like a 3 Series BMW. But the trades, it's like, will you take payments? The stupid lowball offers, like, it's like, I get it. Car, tons of miles. It's really hard to put like a value on it. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to sell the car for less than what it's worth if I were going to part it out. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, the V10 motor is worth V10 motor money at the end of the day. And then your wheels and your tires, your suspension, all this other stuff. Not that parting cars out is easy, because then you need to deal with exponential amount of retards on marketplace
Yeah.
that want to lowball you on all the parts you're trying to sell. Um, but yeah, just unreal how some stuff, it's like it attracts this whole market of people that like are just playing games. And like sometimes, man, I'd mess with them. I'd just be like, yeah, sure. Where do you want to meet? And then it's like crickets.
Right.
I mean, like, man, in Dubai, it was really bad too. I actually got to a point where, um, like, just insultful offers. I'd be like, yeah, sure, I'll meet you at this place at 7 o'clock. Like, 8 times out of 10, they'd go away. But then I get the odd message like, oh, man, I'm here. Where are you? I'd be like, dude, you wasted my time. So I just wasted yours. Have a nice day.
Right. Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, and the other thing that amazes the shit out of me is how do people not know that it absolutely drives a seller nuts to receive, is this still available?
Man, I don't know
Like,
why Facebook even has it. Just take that fucking option away.
I,
Like, I don't know anybody that likes it.
no, it drives everybody nuts. And like, if the ad's up, why are you asking me? You know, like we got a
Yeah.
clear cut sign as to what's going on here. Why are you asking? You know?
Oh, dude, it's like, why do people drive slow in the fast lane?
Well, yeah.
Which apparently, I saw this thing. I think Kevin, my buddy, sent it to me. And I don't know if it's fake news or what, but they're like, oh, Texas wants to pilot their own Autobahn, no speed limit highway. And I'm
Really?
like, the first thing I could think of, I'm like, there better not be any trucks allowed on that roadway. And like, there needs to be like just signs like, move the fuck over, like with
Yeah.
arrows, like just keep right, keep right, keep right. Cause like, oh man, it's, to me, it sort of seems a little bit like a recipe for disaster if it's true. Like the speed limits here are already fast as hell.
Yeah.
And me and Britt always complain. Like, people always pull out in front of you here. And it's, I think it's because people don't realize how fast the speed limits are. So like when you pull out in front of someone, it's like that much more worse because you're going at a good clip. Like, well, you've been
Mhm.
here, you know what I mean? Like 80 kilometers an hour or 45 is like you're around town driving. In Canada, it's like what, 60 kilometers an hour? What's that, 30, 35? Like, pretty big difference,
50.
right?
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, it's like, can you not like judge momentum? Like, can you not
Yeah.
realize how fast a car is coming before you decide to turn out in front of them?
I know this is a real tough one for me because I'm not big on rules and regs and, big government. I hate all that shit. But, when it comes to stuff like this, I'm going to sound like a hypocrite, but like I really truly think they're just, well, maybe not more rules, but there needs to be better training or something. Because I, who's now driven what, 30, no, 28 years, I guess. What are we? We're both 44. I'm almost 44. Yeah,
Yeah.
28, 28 years. So I still remember it being in that book that I had to know inside and out to get my learner's permit, that it clearly says it's illegal to drive fast, or sorry, to drive slow in the fast lane.
Yeah, it always says keep right. The only time you use the left lane is for passing.
Right. And we have throughout Canada, like sporadic signs. They're easy to miss. I always see them, and I always want to like roll the window down and point, like, "Look, you dumb fucks!" Like read the damn sign. But I noticed when I was down seeing you last, like the big black with the orange letter, kind of overpass style signs, and it's like, "Drive the Texas way, move over." And
Yeah.
because truly, man, okay, whatever. This is maybe going to drive people nuts to get this minute on it, but like there is a certain percentage of people that do it just to be dinks. Like they're just
Yeah.
living a miserable life and they want to try to play citizens police, right? I'd probably say that's the lightest of the percentage of all 100%. Then the big one is just obliviousness. Like these are the type of people that get where they're going and they're like, "Oh, I don't even remember the last 5 miles. Like how did that happen?" Like they're just fucking out there, right? And
Well,
that's scary because we are trusting our lives with them on the road. And this is where it gets like into that hypocritical perspective of like, I hate rules, but like somebody's got to do something about that. And I think it's got to go right back to the start in the training aspects. Like
yeah.
you just need to know. And then on top of all that, I'll just wrap it all up by saying if everybody had like just a high level of common courtesy for their fellow human being, right? And was just like, "Oh shit, right? No, I know I'm on a Sunday drive. I'm getting over." Or hell, maybe you just really like driving in the left lane. So get out of the way and then go right back into it. Like just, don't cause a ruckus. Think
Yeah.
about someone else other than just yourself. Because it comes across as a very selfish thing, you know? And I can't help, but every time I see one of those people, I'll dust them on the right hand side, right? And every time I look and I'm just like, you don't even know what you're doing right now. It's like people are like distributors. Some are advanced, some are retarded. You
I
know?
think there's a lot on the latter side, to be honest. Yeah, it's I don't know, man. Whenever you really like look at humanity and and I get it. I mean, if we didn't have those people, we probably there wouldn't be jobs and food chain would probably get all messed up and everything else. But um, guess it's just like not just stay away from me, stay out of my pond, as BJ said. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like let me
Yeah, don't
splash,
splash
let me
the water
splash
out of
in
my
my own
pond.
puddles. You know what I mean? You can fuck off in your own over there. Um, yeah, no, it's
But how would you even start? Because that's just one component of many that I think just a real common courtesy for your fellow human being can go a long ways by applying, Like, where do you even start
but
other than people having conversations like this? How would you ever move the needle on this?
well, it's funny, right? Like I know we talked. Actually, it's been a while since we talked about like political and like religion and all these other things. And I know that we've said it before. Like I notice it especially down here, or you go anywhere that's like more Bible country, if you will. At least the manners that people have, how people
Oh, yeah.
address yes sir, yes ma'am, you know what I mean, hold doors open. Those are the people that would on an old backcountry road, they'll move over to the right and let you pass because they
Yeah.
see that you're coming in the rear view. um I think there's a lot of values just in terms of like behavior, being respectful, and I mean, just like, and that's cascaded down. And now we just look at everybody that's running wild, kids with cell phones in their hands, relying on social media. And in fact, I saw a really interesting um, reel or whatever today where this lady was like, I rather my kids smoke than be on social media. Like,
Mm.
especially from like 13 to like 18, I think was the example that if they smoked from 13 to 18 and then they quit smoking at 18, their lungs will heal themselves.
Right.
The amount of shit that you've absorbed through social media and what that's done to you and the way that you're taking that information in and processing and whatever is going to fuck your brain up forever going forward, because it's like in definitive years. And I mean, it's this whole no accountability. I don't want to do that. I can do whatever I want, blah, blah, blah. I mean, no, never receive the stick or the paddle or soap in the mouth or whatever it might be. There's just no discipline, or it's like whatever. You know what I mean? Nobody takes anything seriously anymore, which is fine in its right context. It's fine not to be serious or whatever when it's not impacting those that are around you. Like, you start
Yeah.
messing with other people's lives, that's when it becomes an issue. So, yeah, I don't know, man. That's I don't know how to get
It's
those
a big
values
one.
back. I really don't.
Yeah, it's a big topic for sure. I know that, if you're trying to paint with the broadest brush possible, that folks that come from small towns tend to embrace this style of living a lot more. Like you said, the old fella that pulls over and lets you go by, or, I mean, there's a common courtesy that comes out of small town living. This usually revolves around more like farm country and stuff. But like, if you're on a busy road, one that's, a half decent speed limit too, and you want to turn left off of it and no one's coming, you pull into the left lane because you're going to otherwise slow down traffic if you stay in the right lane, right?
Yep.
Um, Probably, as far as the rule book's concerned, a highly illegal move. But how nice is that? How courteous is that?
Yep.
Um, so yeah, small towns tend to, again, using my broad brush, tend to have that a lot more. I mean, not that I want to make any excuses for this, but like city style living, especially big hustle and bustle cities, tend to have folks that just live in their bubble, right? Because there's
Yeah.
just almost too much for the human mind to comprehend, which is a good argument for the smaller centers and stuff, right? Like, we're not meant to live in and amongst millions and millions of people and be stacked on top of one another. And, this is why our knees are fucked up and, all this stuff. So, um, I don't know. I mean, how it's gotten here is a whole nother topic in itself. But that this now, I don't want to say that there's not people that haven't come out of bigger centers that just somehow have this inbred in their DNA too. Like,
Well, I
but
think if you look at, there is one factor that I think impacts this is people's dependence on GPS or navigation, Google Maps, Apple Maps, Waze, whatever, because nobody feels comfortable where they're going anymore. You know what I mean?
yeah,
And it was like when my buddy Kevin was down, and you know what I mean, he was relying on the GPS and GPS was off. I'm like, dude, I'll tell you how to get to the shop. You don't need to put it in the fucking GPS. And it's like I'd tell him, okay, man, make a left up here. And the motherfucker wanted to turn right. And I'm like, and you know what I mean? Like, he was a good, like, he was an offensive little bit of a scary driver back in the day, but now it's almost like, man, you've like you're
lost your edge,
yeah, or like what, you're a submissive driver to the fucking GPS. You know what I mean? And
right?
it's like somebody else is telling you what to do and you don't know what to fucking do because it's not your leader talking to you, you know?
Yeah,
So I think that plays a huge component to it, because like it's not allowing you to think anymore. It's not, you're not like, where's north or east or west, and like, you know what I mean? It's taken all that away. So your brain isn't actually working like, okay, if I go this direction, or if it's here, or like you're looking at the sun, or just trying to wrap around like, oh, I know that road over there. So that's got to intersect up here somewhere.
yep,
You know what I mean? So like, and that sort of comes to your point. Like, okay, well, if I'm coming up to this light, there's a right, you know what I mean? I'm going to block people that might want to be turning right over here. So I'm going to move over here. And it's like, you're using your brain.
mm,
Um, so I think that that's one main thing. And then I think the other thing is whatever this reciprocal driver's license ordeal is with the immigrants that come in. You know what I mean? That says, oh, okay, you got a driver's license from over there. Yeah, you're fine. Just hand that one in and we'll give you one. Yeah, the general rules of the road are the same, but it's sort of like them learning English. And it's like, okay, you got the main words down, but you don't understand the sayings or
Right.
like the
The
lingo of
nuances.
like what hump day is, or like, you know what I mean, the slang that comes with English so that you can actually kind of, you know what I mean? So like same way, generally your driving habits, okay, I know how to read a speed limit sign, I know a stop sign, I know a stoplight, but anything in between in terms of habits are not being addressed.
Yeah.
All right. So if it was like at least make anybody from some country that has different driving behaviors just do a ride along and be like, this is the slang of driving here. Yes, you
Right.
can turn right on a red in most cases, or like you keep to the friggin' right. You know what I mean? And all of these things and let people by. And like whether they take it in
Well,
or not, it's a different story. But like at least it'd be because like they're not, and we know how it goes, man. Like you look over, you see the people that are driving and everything else. And I think aside from like truck drivers, that at least they get on the radio and like you do something douchey in a truck, some guy's going to call you out, right? On the rate.
yep.
Like if we all had radios, I always wished, right? Like you could get almost like an LCD display in your rear window and like voice to text that motherfucker and just
Yeah.
like, I just like that'd be my visual road rage going down the road. You know what I mean? Like
Totally.
let people know, like get the fuck off your phone or stay to the right. You
Yep.
suck. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to your point, even if you had like a, okay, we're going to do the reciprocal license thing, but we got a 1 day mandatory course or a 2 day or whatever it is, you must do it. Right. And there's got to be some way to prove that you've retained some of this stuff. Right. Because, like, yeah, that's the thing. Like, somewhere in your lineage, there's an immigrant person, right? That has brought you here from wherever else. And, I mean, I don't know if it'd be interesting to have someone that was, that old. Sadly, they're all like dead now. But, what was it like then? Were there people feeling the same way? And it just takes like X amount of years to amalgamate and whatever. Um, the part that I have problems with is like the lack of, at least it seems like lack of want to amalgamate.
Yeah.
That one bugs me very
I'd
much
be
so.
curious if, because like I ran into, out of all issues when I went back to Canada from Dubai, they made me start from square one. They didn't,
Did they?
Dubai wasn't like, Dubai would recognize a Canadian license, but it didn't work the other way. So I had to do the test, like you would read out of the book, right? And, you do your questions and it's road signs and lane changes and all this different stuff. And I said to myself, I'm like, I'm not going to read the book. I'm not going to read online. I'm like, if I can't pass this test after all the years that I've driven, then maybe I should need a
Have
refresher.
a re have a
Right? Like,
refresh. Yeah.
despite like we all break rules in our own ways, but like we know what the rules are and we know when's appropriate to bend them. Like you said, moving over left so that traffic can still kind of keep going, right? And man,
Yep.
I like passed. So I did that. I did the whatever auto and truck, and then the motorcycle. Did them both. No manual, no books, no nothing, and passed them both with flying colors. I guarantee you, even not talking immigrants, a huge percentage of population. So we said what we've been driving for 28 years. Take people that have been driving for 18 years and just
Right.
make them write those tests and see if they even pass. I'd probably say 80% of people would fail.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's a genuine problem.
Yeah, it is. Big time. I know it's one of those things that you just, well, I mean, it kind of goes back to the common courtesy thing. Like, why would you not want to know? what's going on. And, be honest enough with yourself too, to be like, yeah, like this isn't good. I mean, probably one of the weirdest experiences I ever had driving was on the left or right hand side of the car in Ireland, right? Like, for what it's worth, I really didn't have any business doing it, even though I was totally legal to do so. But yeah, the wife's aunt throws me the keys to her fucking Lexus. And it's like, yeah, have fun. I'm like, holy shit. Like, this is odd, And I can't remember. There's something with it's in an intersection. And well, maybe you can, yeah, everything's backwards, right? Like you can turn left on a
On a
red.
red. Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember going, holy shit, here we go. We're coming into one, right? And it's just, I don't know, for anyone that's never done it, it's very, very odd, right?
The worst part is some cars, the multifunction for the turn signals is on the same side and some is on the opposite side. So I remember in
Right.
Australia, dude, I'd fucking go to turn and the wipers would come on. And it's like, and like even walking, because you forget, right? Like walking up to
Yeah.
the car, and it's like, oh, I walked to the damn wrong side of the car again. Like um it does mess with you. I've never understood the gear shifters. They're always the
Stays the
same.
same.
So it's like, man, that'd be a hard power shift, one, two, two. Like it's especially with your left hand not being dominant,
Yeah.
right?
I've
So
always thought the exact same. Like, cause
yeah.
yeah, first is all the way away from you.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
like
you're,
it's like shifting into reverse or some shit, It's weird.
yeah. And that, like you say, that power shift to 3
Yeah.
just doesn't sort of click with your mind, right?
No.
But it's true, man. I actually was just thinking this the other day. So that 6,600 miles in my mom's pickup, uh, you and a lot of hours and everything else, like you don't realize it, but you start getting used to various things. And then once I got back, I jump in my truck and I'm trying to open the door the same way, but the F-150s is kind of weird. It's like you stuff your hand in where you would like close it. That's also where the opener is. I
Right.
keep trying to do that in my truck. I'm like, fuck, it's not there. Like, in
Uh,
12 days, I literally established a habit.
yeah. Well, that was 12 days, probably equivalent to 3 months of,
Yeah.
average driving. So 3 months is what develops a behavior, they say, or a trend.
Yeah.
So,
Well, a buddy of mine, he's down in Temecula, California right now and just came back or whatever on a little trip. And he was asking me about how ours was. And he goes, I don't know how the fuck you did that. He says, I did 1,500 miles and I planned it out over like 3.5, 4 days. Like, yeah, double that and then some and do the same amount of days and see how you
yeah.
do.
Oh,
But how many miles were we to Detroit in the old shit box? You're
it
two
was over
something,
a
right?
thousand. No, I think it was like 15 or something like that, maybe.
Does that make sense? Because we did it in 26 hours? That'd be
Is
really slow, wouldn't it?
Oh, maybe. Well, shit, I don't know now.
I Okay, and I can't remember the number, but I remember when Bill was running around trying to see who would drove the furthest.
Right.
And I remember we did have a figure. Actually, shit, I might still have
Because the guy from
the
like
car mileage.
Manitoba or whatever one, right?
Calgary, Alberta.
Yeah. So
Here,
for
you know what,
you,
dude? I got the shipbox mileage report here.
no shit.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'm sure we've said this before, but for anybody new out there, we averaged 28.77 miles to the gallon, which is staggering to think. Because, well, okay, the speedo was broken, but we had that bitch buried
Yeah.
from fucking Austin to Detroit.
Yeah.
Those 373s were smoking. Uh, it cost us $243 in fuel.
Hmm.
That's pretty cheap. trip to Detroit when you think
Yep.
about it. And we drove 1,407 miles.
Hmm. Yeah, it'd probably be about right.
We were getting 443 miles to a tank on average. That's
Well,
pretty
shit, fuck.
sweet.
That was an efficient, good running motor, man.
Absolutely.
Minus the belts. The belts were the costly thing.
Yeah, they were all shit. Yeah, the old girl did good. Um, and the funniest part about this is um that is over that's from July 13th to July 14th. All that data.
Oh,
Literally 26 miles not or 26 hours nonstop.
yeah. Oh, what a time. Well, yeah, I guess, our belt changes and whatever, eating and stuff and whatnot kind of adds up. But
I
yeah,
really
what a,
only remember eating one meal. Didn't we? We got McShits uh like halfway there. We pulled into that
I
Mickey
thought we
D's.
ate Subway.
No, that was on the Dash 3000. Yeah, that's right. Because you brought up how you worked at one. And we were
Yeah.
talking about how they used to cut the center out of the bread. And yeah.
Oh,
No, we just got Mickey D's. I think the rest of it was all gas station food.
oh, probably. Who knows? Honestly, it's a
Jesus.
blur, man. It's a huge blur.
Well, it's funny to think after the pits tour and getting the appreciation for Tennessee that we did, like you and I drove through Tennessee.
Hmm.
I mean, all I remember seeing is the sign that said Nashville this way, like the big green sign. That was it. We had good intentions of peeling in there for the night had we been on
Yeah.
time.
No, it's true, man. It is true. Um, yeah, it sucks when stuff doesn't go as planned, which thankfully, knock on my wooden desk here, I am like everything got completed in the nick of time today for Mustang Week. So I don't
Oh
have
yeah,
this weird last minute stress thing going on. I thought I was going to have it, but everything worked out nice. My secret, well, not my secret, but my alternative rocker arm lash adjustment, I tell you, works every time.
it worked well. Hey,
Oh, yeah.
so okay, yeah, fill me in on Justin's car and all the unfoldings there.
All right.
So yeah, because that thing was like the motor was essentially drop in, right? Like you got that as a long block, ready to rock.
Yeah. So it was more like custom fab for like intake piping. Um, Obviously, like all the lines and fuel system needed to be done, and then reservoir location for the master cylinder, or sorry, for the clutch, the hydraulic clutch. Um, and then, of course, like power steering stuff and all the cooling and all that nonsense, and trying to, I
All
guess,
that
come
crazy
up with the look.
accessory drive.
Yeah, and then like getting the coil mounted in a custom spot that works, and um, I mean, there was just a lot of detail. You know what I mean? Like that's why I try and explain to people that inquire about builds. It's like, man, getting the motor in is easy. Like whether it's Coyote or a Godzilla or whatever, normal small block, you get that in your transmission in fairly quickly. It's all of the little things that like add up and can just absolutely snowball down, a crazy path. And like you get to, like that car, the whole underside got painted, reworked a lot of the suspension and everything else, and needed a Brembo upgrade on the brakes and all that stuff, and a lot of tweaks in the interior. So the Recaros, but then I did like ambient lighting, like you'd see in a Mercedes. So that chrome strip in the armrest,
Yeah.
in between the armrest pad and the thing. So I've actually got a strip in there that lights up.
Oh,
So
cool.
when you
Does it
open the
look pretty neat?
door, what's that?
And it looks pretty cool.
Yeah, and like you can change the colors and stuff. So I got it sort of like on a a pink setting because, like, his whole theme's a Tiffany blue, and there's a bit of pink and um, what's like a aqua-ish color or whatever. So kind of three strips, sort of like motorsport, but like in a different theme of colors.
Yeah.
Um, he's got the AZA Sparco steering wheel, the carbon with the Tiffany blue stripe in the center. And, he didn't want a bunch of gauges in, his face and stuff like that. So did actually Matthew's gauge pod with dual
Yeah.
AFR wide bands and all the Holly big dash stuff. So today was, I left the quarter windows out because I had to restore the trim on them. They were pretty nice, but in respect to the rest of the car, those moldings always kind of start to show signs of wear, especially being in Texas. So redid those, and like the trim along I guess the roof line and the belt line strips and everything on the doors got changed. So I left that off knowing that they were going to PPF the car. So that way it was kind of easier to get the PPF over and cut everything out. So whole car is PPF'd,
Oh,
like not just a bumper or a hood or whatever, the whole thing. So
she's wrapped.
yeah, looks really good. Added a lot of depth to it. So yeah, today was like quarter glass went in, the trim went back on. Headliner is in Tiffany blue Alcantara.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, so that the visors, all that had to go back in. Rear plastics, rear seat. Um, yeah, just like a lot of those button-up details, and then did our second shakedown drive to just kind of around, make sure everything should be good for Mustang Week. So, worked good. It needs like
Who
some
tuned it?
drivability stuff. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what I was asking. Who tuned it? So it's just whatever. It's an idler at this point, or a little bit of a runner.
Well, it's good for wide open and for idling. So when Prestige, well, I guess depending on the package that you buy from them. So this one was run on the dyno and tuned, like broken and tuned on an engine dyno. So it already, I think it's 828 horsepower it made with the YSI. And so amazingly, for something that's just engine only dyno, not actual real drivability with load and shit, the tune's not bad out of the box. Like
Hmm.
it has that classic Foxbody unhappiness, under 2000 RPM, like with the cam, like sometimes it kind of wants to do its bucking thing or whatever a little bit. But
Yeah.
I have to say, not once and never a stall idle of putting the clutch in. That
Hmm.
thing, it's sort of like everything 1800 RPM and above loves it, and then like 1000 RPM and like to 900 maintaining idle, no problems. It's just like that sort of that in between spot of like, all right, what's the
What
AFR
are,
supposed to be? What do I need with the load, to slowly accelerate? And yeah, so big debut. He's pretty pumped. There's a few little things, that you know we're waiting on the fiddle fart wiper delete plates. There's a big opening on the back of the firewall right now, and just kind of stupid little shit. But otherwise,
right?
man, yeah, no, it's nice to see it all together.
Right. Wait, is it a 363 that motor?
It is,
Okay.
yeah, 363 with AFR heads, yeah, the Vortec YSI, Holly high ram intake, all that good stuff.
Yeah, that's a proper package. Huh.
Oh yeah.
Cool. And so yeah, that's going to Mustang Week. And then are you going to take the yellow car down too?
Yeah, so talk about opening the can of worms, right? Because I knew I needed to change the gas tank,
Right.
and because, like, man, I posted on my story, like, it literally was like fuel was the color of rust,
Ugh.
like, is how bad inside that tank was. So, um, drop the tank, or swap the tank and drop the tank, and ended up having to take the tank out again because the connectors came off. The fuel pump went, anyways.
Yeah.
Bunch of bullshit, and got that sorted. But that translated into, okay, well, did any of that rust happen to get past the filter? I should probably get the injectors checked out. So obviously, to get the injectors out, strut tower brace off, upper tubular off, injectors out, and then it's like, well, let me take the valve covers off because they were like half-ass polished the same way that the upper was. And that's when I saw a couple rockers, like literally, I think cylinder one on that one valve, maybe 25% contact of like the valve stem on the roller.
Oh, Jesus.
All right. So there was that one. And I want to say cylinder three. I adjusted, I think, 3 guide plates in total. Just to try and, because obviously the guide plate is telling where the
Rocker where to sit.
the rod or the rod's going, where it's going to orient the rocker accordingly. So and it gave me an opportunity to put the other valve covers on. So yeah, that kind of opened up that whole and then I was like, man, well, I got black valve covers now. I don't like this half-ass polished upper intake. So I'm like, do I just paint it black, or just like a normal satin cast look? I'm like, I didn't want to do body color because I sent the strut tower brace to get done in yellow. So I'm like, that'd be too much yellow. So I just said, screw it. I painted it black. I don't know if I'm like set on it because now some of the accessories are obviously a normal cast finish. I think
Right.
maybe everything needs to be black, but yeah. So I finally got the injectors back last night, and they were off. So I think 2 or 3 were down 4%, and one was like flowing 10% more. So
Hmm.
clean them all out, and there's a whole like procedure that you can stick them on and flows them and does everything. So they all ended up flowing exactly the same, which was good in the end. So jammed all those in, and then yeah, reset all the lash and everything on the rockers. And I have to say, there was a loss of power somewhere that I have brought back, whether it was the
Oh, nice.
injectors or the rockers. Probably I'm going to go with the rockers since they were fucking cockeyed to begin with. Maybe, one was snugged down a little too far or whatever, because they didn't make noise. But
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that, usually they say you almost want to hear a little bit of clack clack to make
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah. Loose is better than too tight.
yeah. So, yeah, I did the old Cletus McFarlane quarter turn increments and just go down the sides and not having to pay attention to what's open, what's closed, and what firing order and blah blah blah. And dude, honestly, it works every time.
You know, there's a guy that I've seen a video of his where he did the same method, and that's his whole selling feature too, right? Like you're in the middle of whatever, and the phone rings, and you don't have to think about where you're at, and
Well, that
was
was
I this
perfect.
turn? Was I
Yeah, because I did one rotation, so like 4, I guess, cycles.
quarters?
And then it was, Brittany's calling me for dinner, and I'm like, this is the classic example. Like,
Yeah,
okay, we come back, doesn't fucking matter. I know I'm going to go around. You know, I usually do like 4 full turns. Usually by like the third one, there's like barely anything. So,
right.
um, yeah, no, it worked out good. So, did a drive right before the pod. Well, dinner was in between, but yeah, everything seemed to be working good and doing what it's supposed to do, and no weird leaks, and new valve covers look good and all that shit. So the only thing I haven't done, which isn't going to stop driving the car, I'm going to try and find the time to do it, is install my yellow seat belts.
Oh, you got some.
Yeah, I had a pair of like dirty old light titanium ones, so I sent them to that safety restore place, and yeah, they, I guess, go through and rebelt your retractors, and away you go.
How long a turnaround was it?
Dude, I sent them after pits, like maybe a couple days after getting back from pits, and I got them back on Monday.
Oh
So
shit.
like a week, 2 weeks max.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, hell, I'm still, and this any Canadian listening to this will know where I'm coming from on this. I'm still like a little floored that, you just run down the road and take your injectors somewhere, right? Like I'd be fucked. Like, yeah,
I
there's
want to
none of
get
that.
that, and so it's the guys who did it for me is it was their personal shop, but they also have a shop. Well, funny enough, their personal shop is 2 miles down the road, and then the shop they work at's right around the corner from mine. They're the guys that do the manual swaps in Ferraris and Lambos.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, they have one of those Amazon units for injectors, and I'm like, man, does it actually like work well? He's like, yeah. He's like, we flow everything through this, and it'll tell you this or that. You can do this, and I'm like,
Hmm,
sweet. So yeah, I'm actually considering maybe grabbing one just to have. You know what I mean? Like we go through injectors enough all the time,
totally.
where you don't know what's in a motor or how long, especially if a motor's sat for a long time. You know what I mean? You need
Yep.
to shock a couple back to life. So, yeah.
Hmm, that's cool. Will they, I guess, just test them, or like, will they break them down and go through them in that level of depth, or?
Um, like they'll go through and like because there's like a little screen thing, and I think there's a way to like backflow them almost, or like a
Okay.
way to like like wash them or do something like within the machine. Like, it's not like opening it up and like trying to get into coils and like not that,
Right.
but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I want to get one to see like what exactly
Yeah.
all the different features and everything else.
Yeah, because the last guy I remember dealing with that, Josh Kennedy, I think, sent a set away to somebody. Actually, I don't even know if he officially sent him. It might have been someone nearby to him. And yeah, essentially like had them rebuilt, like just got a brand new set of injectors back from the guy.
All right,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
That's the thing. Fucking America, man. Like, good grief. Everything at your fingertips all the time.
Yeah,
What injectors are in that car?
24 pound.
24s.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know that'd be a fun motor to tear down and like, just have all the time in the world to just like pick around and whatever. Cause, there's obviously all the information that you've received about the heads being worked over, and like it'd be really neat to take them to a machine shop that knew what they were doing and say, like, hey, if I bring you a set of stock E7s, like what can you tell me about this air quote work that's been done to them? Like, what are we talking here? How good are
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, true. Like get them flow tested or whatever to see, how
Yeah,
good or not good the work was. Another motor that always really impressed me too is the one in my white coupe.
right.
Like it's just like for the bolt-ons and like the heads never being touched. I don't know, that motor always has worked really, really well, I feel. And just like
Hmm,
smooth. Like some yellow car is pretty smooth too. But there's just like some of them, I don't know, like they just feel snappier sometimes than
right.
others, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Is there any roller rockers or anything on that white car?
I don't think so, to be honest. I think the heads are
Hmm,
pretty much untouched on that one.
right. Huh. Yeah, because that's another thing, right? Like the difference between a stamped rocker and a roller rocker, like, fuck, I mean, you go from essentially like, torquey truck motor to all of a sudden it's like, oh, like this thing actually, has no problem, doesn't even break a sweat rolling down the road at 4,000 RPM just for fun,
Yeah.
you know? It's just a totally different driving experience.
No, it is. Yeah, like I said, like taking the yellow car out after redoing that and the injectors and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, this thing, like it just felt like it was breathing properly is probably the best way to describe it. So
Right.
yeah, no, that all went well. So between those two cars, everything is good. But Foxbody John, aka my neighbor, not so much.
Right.
So
Okay. Yeah. I got back to you on that message. I'm like, John, I'm like, is it neighbor John? Like, it can't be neighbor John because that poor fucker's had some bad luck.
dude, it's black fox body stuff, man. It's the curse of the black
Jesus.
fox. It really is. I think it's like it jumps. and I think it's jumped and it's hit him. So, uh, yeah, like right, he'd had the head gasket issue was the last major thing, and car was running great. Actually, got a revised tune back from Moats, so I guess like he's sort of in between doing stuff. Um, and got that loaded on. And John really doesn't drive the car that much. You know what I mean? Like it's just sort of like a weekend thing or wherever there's a good opportunity to take the car out. And he went on a pretty big trip down in the hill country, down to a buddy's place and back the other week. And, you know, we knew the rear main was leaking pretty profusely, but it was like one of those things like, hey, it's the rear main.
Yeah.
So you know, the Powerdyne was on it, and of course he got addicted to boost, so he ordered a brand new Novi 2000, which sitting in the box over here. And you know, I told him, I'm like, listen, man, let's get your rear main fixed before Mustang Week, so you can enjoy the car. Your car's not down, because that's easy enough. Well, it's pain in the dick, but it's easy enough, right? And
Yeah.
you know, I mean, enjoy, and then we'll put the Paxton on. So he had driven it the other day. I forget what he told me. Oh, yeah, he was just like, man, the leak's really bad. Like it's leaking all over my exhaust, and you know, it's concerning at this point. So I'm like, okay, fair enough. And so whatever. We take it out, put a new Ford rear main in, you know, goop it all up to make sure it's like, motherfucker, you are not leaking. And start the car up after and go for like a little test drive. And I'm like, car just kind of like it didn't feel like a miss. It felt like there was like this weird little flutter in there, like an imbalance that like you'd really have to like. And I've driven his car enough, like through you know the data logging and everything else. I'm like something feels off. And then as I'm starting, and I noticed his boost gauge, which shows vacuum and boost, it's sitting at 0. So there's like no vacuum. I'm
Hmm.
like, that's kind of odd. So I'm coming to like a stop and like the brake pedal kind of fades out a little bit. And I'm like, okay, there's clearly some sort of weird, either the booster's fucked or there's some vacuum stuff going on or whatever. So get the car back, check all the vacuum lines, and it's got a System X intake on it. Like the vacuum, there's like 3 outputs off that intake for vacuum. I pull a line off and I'm like, it's sucking at idle. And it's got a oil separator catch can, you know, that's vented, and then it had like a big breather on the where the oil cap would normally be. So like I
Yeah.
saw some smoke coming out of it, but dude, I popped that fucking breather off that oil fill neck and it's like puffing cigar rings.
Really?
And I'm like, holy shit. I'm like, okay, that's a lot of like blow by coming through. I'm like, this isn't a motor that's just venting. This is something that's trying to get fucking demons out of it. So
Right.
I'm like, I better get the compression tester out. And dude, I shit you not, this second time it's happened to me. I usually start on cylinder 5 because it's like when you got a blower, you know, the passenger bank's always, it's like whatever. You start with the easy stuff. So yeah, cylinder 5, 60 psi.
Ooh.
So I go along at 170, 175, 170, 175, like every other cylinder. Like that's a far stretch. And like that's not intake off or leaving the throttle blade open or whatever. That's just like whatever. Spinning it. And like whatever, go grab, you know, a little bit of oil, throw it down cylinder number 5, gets it up to I think 90. So like it's gotta be
Really?
the rings. You know what I mean? Because like if there's no change, you know it's going through a valve. So I um didn't have my scope with me, so I brought it the next day and I put the scope down and like, dude, you could see because this motor's got maybe 500 miles on it. And this is, in
Oh
fact,
no.
this is the motor how I found out about Clay's machine shop that Jordan bought.
Right.
So um, put the scope down. You can see all the cross hatching. Top of the piston is beautiful, like clean. All the piston, like, and like even the spark plugs, all the spark plugs, you would think that that one would look a little different. Like looking at it, you'd be hard pressed to see a difference. So like it's firing, but the compression's going the wrong way. It's not just slamming the piston down, it's going past it. So, so
Oh,
that was the other thing. I took the car for the drive, all that shit happened. And when I was like fucking around and I pulled the breather cap off and I saw all this smoke, dude, the motor started leaking oil out of every other orifice that it could find. So, and I even pulled the dipstick or dipstick out and smoking out the dipstick. So just like constant pressure going into the crankcase.
huh. Wow.
So
And
it's
I
got to be
mean,
a ring. Like some, it must have dropped a ring or whatever it did, or something happened because it's not like the cylinder looks all washed out. So it's just letting compression through the motor.
yeah, and a stuck ring wouldn't make sense.
No,
Huh. With the
or
motor
maybe it's
being that
cracked.
new.
I don't know if a couple cracks in the rings or whatever. And because I was like, oh, maybe if the intake valve's fucked, it'd be sending shit back up through the intake. But like for that, the fact that the oil brought the compression up is sort of to me the sign. So either way, that motor was never really built for boost to start with. John just sort of got the itch. He thought that HCI setup would be enough, and then it's like, no, I want more. So the good news is I have a block already at Jordan's 306. Actually, I got two. I got 347 and 306. So I was talking with Jordan. I'm like, well, 306, get the compression at like 9.5, do forged pistons, and you know what I mean? The normal stuff, kind of build it for his Novi 2000. Then it
Right.
should be a pretty straightforward. We can pull his heads will be fine. His cam should be fine. It doesn't look like there's a bunch of shrapnel or, you know what I mean? Because even if it dropped a valve, I would see there'd be some sort of damage or something on that piston or some sort of indication about it or noise. No noise.
Yeah.
Quiet. So yeah, it sucks, man. I feel really bad for him. And he was so excited too, because like he'd like, oh man, I want to do LMR cruising, or his car was that's when the head gasket was bad, or you know what I mean? Like it was just like every time there was something, his car was never available. So I'm like, I was going through, I charged his AC up for him and everything. I'm like, yeah, man, John, you're finally gonna get to enjoy your car. And then I had to have this fucking conversation
Oh,
with him.
that's
So
brutal.
So he came over today and I, explained everything that I talked about with Jordan. And so that'll probably most likely be the path. And I'm like, all right, which car do you want to drive to the show tomorrow? So he's going to drive the strawberry car. So he's still got something. And
Nice.
yeah.
Why did it get rebuilt? Like you said, it got rebuilt at Clay's. Why did it get rebuilt in the first place?
So he bought the car. I want to say he bought it off eBay, and it, is a sight unseen thing. So he didn't know much about it. And there was an issue. Something happened with his mechanic. I don't know if it was just like sluggish or whatever. And like, I know that he had bought all the HCI stuff. And I think his mechanic did a compression test on it and was sort of like, you should probably
Mm.
rebuild it. If you're going to like start throwing a bunch of power at it, like this is the time, sort of. And back then, so this is pre-COVID. Dude, I'm going to pull this up. This will blow you away. It actually blew Jordan away because Jordan wasn't privy to what the rates were back before COVID.
Right.
So let me open this up. Tank boil. So, like, boiling the block to clean it up, boring the block, grinding the crank, resized 8 connecting rods, installed cam bearings, installed freeze plugs, re the rods and the pistons. So obviously probably new bearings and shit for the rods because they ground the crank, and assembled the short block. How much do you think that bill was? And this is, let me tell you the date.
Put new pistons in it too.
I think yes. Yep.
So new pistons, new bearings, and all the labor involved.
Shit, there's no date on this. We'll just say pre-COVID.
Right? Oh Christ, I'm gonna say like $4,500, $5,000.
$844.
What? That doesn't even fucking compute, man.
The boil was $70. The boring was 120. Grinding the crank was 98. Resizing the connecting rods is 84. Cam bearings 42. Freeze plugs 30. Rods, oh sorry. Not not the piston price, but the re was 50, and assembly of the short block was 350.
Wow.
So I sent this to Jordan. I'm like, dude, you got warranty on your shit? He's like, normally not on performance stuff, especially a boosted application. I'm like, fair enough. But I'm like, if it did eat a ring, let's say, you know what I mean? That's not really related to, anything too crazy here. And then I'm like looking at this invoice. I'm like, this ain't shit. Even if he was going to warrant, I'm like, how much would this bill be today? Like to do this exact same stuff. And dude, it was more than double. He told me,
Oh
he's like, I don't even know what Clay was paying those guys back then, but he's like, can't touch that by any
no,
means.
God no. I mean,
So,
that's old school, like 1950, 1960s shit.
well, hey man, small machine shop down in good old San Antonio. I think there was 5 machine shops down there, but pre-COVID, I think 3 of them, all the old dudes retired. So I think
Hmm.
it's just like Jordan and like one other outfit or whatever, like you're farming your shit out. So yeah, that was pretty crazy to go through that. I'm like,
No doubt.
so I was just like, man, even if you gave him all his money back, it's kind of that ain't shit.
Yeah, that'd be cheap to make a customer happy for sure. Here's $800. Go for
Oh,
dinner.
unreal, right? So like
Wow.
obviously, yeah, there would have been the cost of the some of the parts in addition to that, but still, like I know the prices would have been like nothing. Like that rebuild was definitely probably what, $1,500,
Yeah.
like in total, like with new pistons and stuff with the labor and everything else. Like that is because yeah, he had the cam was custom ground Ed Curtis, right? So it's not like they were putting the stock cam in, but yeah, unreal.
No kidding.
It's
I
sort of
mean,
like paint though when you think about it, right? Like I remember $3,500, $5,000 paint jobs, and like that's
oh,
long gone, right? Now we're
$2,500 was always the number.
yeah. Now we're like 10, 15, 20, whatever.
Yep. Yeah. And I was listening to a podcast today that was kind of talking about this. It actually it made me think a little bit because, whenever we're talking about like the price to live and, minimum wage and all this stuff, you know, I think we tend to like cross thread those two things when we really shouldn't. Like it's not fair to because, the whole idea behind a minimum wage job is, you're 16 and you still live at home and you make minimum wage and, you buy beer on a Friday night. Like pretty minor expenses at that age, right? Now, not to say that there's not older people doing those minimum wage jobs, and I guess it's a bit of a shame that that's maybe either what they choose to do or what they're hitting the ceiling at doing. I don't know, right? So that's kind of the outlier, but the non-outlier, like the 99% of people that would be working minimum wage jobs, are not having the same level of expenses that the rest of us are with either running your own business or having a career type job, right? Yeah, and it kind of made me go like, that's a really good point. Like, why do we talk about those two things even in the same sentence a lot? Because the vast majority of people are not in those situations, right?
Yeah.
And then, yeah, you throw in like whatever the area and the cost of living in that area and everything else. But I mean, I don't know how you fix it all. Something definitely needs to be fixed um, everywhere in the world. I am unaware, maybe some of the Asian countries or the Indian countries, like outside of that, and those are like, you know, whatever you want to call them, third world poverty, poor. I am unaware of anywhere that it is not expensive to live in, relatively speaking,
Yeah. It's weird, man, because like everything from that, like the cost of living, the behavior of people and stuff, like I think that's where the reverse culture shock after 10 years in Dubai, because it was like I was in another country. So it's sort of like I'm a guest and I can expect things not to work the way they should. Or, I mean, at that point, I remember when it was like $10 for a beer. But
right?
like I'm in a country that technically drinking is illegal. And you'd find the spot sometimes, right? You go to the right place, you get a bucket, maybe it's like $6 or $7 a beer, and you're like, yeah, right on. And then like as the years went by and I'd come back and visit, all of a sudden beer's $10 for a beer.
Right.
And then it's $12 for a beer. Or it's whatever, 15, 16, 17, $18 for a fancy old fashioned or whatever it'd be. And now it's like, okay, I'm going back to Dubai and it's still $10, generally speaking, right? Like I don't know what it is now, but it's okay. There's that. There's people are going to drive a certain way there. People are going to behave a certain way there. And you come back thinking like, okay, I'm in the first world now. People should behave properly, right? And whatever our definition of what proper might seem to be. And you're like, what the fuck has happened here?
Yeah.
Like, why does it seem this country that is literally like, fuck it, they're 50 odd something years old at this point? Like, the UAE is not an old country.
Right.
How is that country so rich in so many ways and so advanced? And it's just like this exponential scale. And then you come back and it's like, why does the first world seem like it's the third world, and what's supposed to be the third world is actually kind of seeming like the first world, other than like some weird cultural intricacies of people that, again, when you're there, you have to have the appreciation for, because you're a guest like everybody else is, generally speaking. And it just doesn't compute. It's like Foxbody's value compared to other classic cars does not compute. It was like when the land value of property in Detroit was cheaper than buying in India at one point. That did not compute. Like,
Yeah.
there's a big problem surfacing around all this stuff that just does not make sense. And I know we've had a couple um, off pod, off camera conversations about, some of the things that strategies and stuff that might be going on. But yeah, man, something's got to give, because it's gonna flip. Some of these other countries are gonna have an opportunity to actually, you know what I mean? Like, give a better quality of life, I think, is the best way of putting it.
Yep.
Like, that's what it comes
Yep.
down to. Like, and we've spoken about that. Like, if you're happy where you live, you're happy with your surroundings and what's around you every day, like none of the rest really matters. You know what I mean? And I think that um there's a lot of these places that we could live a much simpler, much easier, stress-free life, um, and be more rich in that sense than worrying about busting our asses off, working and working and working. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. That I don't think anyone would argue the fact that there's definitely a lot of greed that has been applied to the situations that many countries have found themselves in. Because, like anything, I think the people that are not on, the left extreme or the right extreme, like, fairly level headed down the middle, centrist type people would all say, like, hey, listen, I'm okay paying for paved roads, and I'm okay paying, all these like things that make modern day life relatively convenient. But it's when you start feeling like it's kind of like going back to the OEM seats example. Like, if you feel like this is a fair deal, then everybody wins and life moves on. But, you know, if I wanted $8,000 for those seats, it'd be like, what? Oh, yeah, man, like inflation and shit. You know what I mean? Like, it is what it is. Now we're into like kind of current day examples where things are just astronomically priced. And then all of that backflows and trickles down, right? It goes all the way back down to like, okay, well, now do we need a $30 an hour minimum wage? Like, whoa, 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 right?
Yeah.
Ah, fuck, man. Yeah, it's weird, but it would be nice. And I think this is what's occurring down south right now is there is a bit of a reset that's taking place. Um, it's going to be short-term pain, long-term gain, I think.
Yeah.
And because something like things do have to come back in alignment, like back to center. Because now one could make the argument as well, you're as familiar with Europe as I am, like a lot of those places, especially like the UK. I mean, houses that have no business being $1 million+ are actually $1 million+. And people can't afford that because the wages haven't kept up like the cost of goods and assets and shit. So what do? Well, just take out 100-year mortgage. Like, well, fuck, man. Like, that's the definition of band-aid, right? And
Yeah.
now you inherit your parents' fucking mortgage. Like, come on. What are we doing here, right? But think about it, like in our lifetime, right? Most of us grew up in a house that was 30, 40, 50 grand at most, you know? Anything
Yeah.
beyond that, you were probably living in an outrageous area or you lived in an outrageously massive house on a lake somewhere or whatever. But so we've gone from 30, 40, 50 grand. And then as we were all coming of age to like actually buy our own first house, 100, 150, 200, was about
Yeah.
the goalposts. Now we're like way past five, you know, like 4 or 5. And I mean, some areas are up north of a mil for, I mean, hell, looking around here to get yourself like a 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, like, I don't know, 800 square foot condo or whatever. It's like 600 grand.
Plus your condo fees and shit, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you do just the quick high level backwards math on that, like 20% down, first time lender, like these are the houses or the fucking roofs over your head that people would buy when they were just starting out. Like,
Yeah.
how do you just start out with a $600,000 mortgage? I tried breaking this down for the kids recently. I said, I still remember when me and the wife, well, she wasn't my wife yet, but when we first started out, I was making 40 grand a year. She was making 32 or something, but whatever. For what it's worth, we were making 70 grand a year, right? And we bought our first house, which we bought in an upwards market or whatever, but it was like a $220,000 house. Funny sidebar, in the town I grew up, little lake town or whatever. Um, I can remember being out on the lake in like one of my local buddies' shitty old boats and looking up at the houses on the lake. They were always folks from Alberta that would come up for the summer and stuff. We'd be like, oh yeah, that one's like a quarter mil, right? And
Yeah.
then here's me and the wife sitting down signing fucking documents for what it's worth, $250,000 like fucking starter home, you know? Wild. But yeah, I ran the backwards math with the kid with my oldest the other day, and I was like, yeah, dude, like with 70 grand, we could I had saved up for a down payment. So that was already whatever factored in, but we could get approved for a mortgage. I said I had a newer pickup at the time, like that I was getting payments on. So had enough credit or enough ability to pay that too. So did the wife. Hell, I said I think we even probably got approved to buy like a ATV or something at the time too. Like we weren't strapped. I mean,
Yeah.
we weren't blowing it out of the water either, but like we could buy shit. And I'm like, these days, like when your baseline to get a starter home is like 500-600K, you ain't doing that on 70 grand. And fuck,
Yeah.
even if you had, let's say, whatever, however long that was ago now, 25 years ago. So fast forward 25 years to now, and let's just say all that's shifted where my wage out of school would be 70 and the wife's might be 65 or whatever, 70 for what it's worth.
Yeah.
You can't do that on 140K a year, dude.
No.
Like at all. Remember the
No.
days when like if you made 100 grand, like, and this is back when we were making minimum wage, but if you heard someone was making 100 grand, they were batting 1,000. Like they were hitting home runs.
Well, dude, I remember it was sort of like if you could take home $1,000 a week, like that was like, you know what I mean? That's all you needed. And I remember when I first, because it's sort of, yeah, right out of university. And funny enough, nothing related, right? I was doing like water system implementations, like all HDPE piping for drinking water and shit. And yeah, I was making like $1,000, 1,200 a week, and I'm like, holy fuck. I'm like, this is, and to your point, right? Like first home, I think it was like 208,000. And again, like no big deal, 5% down, first time home buyer, blah blah blah, you know the drill. um I had my black Lightning, which, so this would have been in what, 2004. My black Lightning was a 2000, newest vehicle I had ever fucking owned. The thing was like brand new in my eyes.
Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? Had my white notch, had 2, 3 BMWs, my jet ski, um, and whatever else. And yeah, like it was, life was fine. Didn't worry about
Yeah.
gas, didn't worry about whatever. And you know what I mean? Things were good. And like to think even now, like mind you, yeah, I'm doing the work and stuff that I love, but being, I guess, older and like, dude, if it wasn't for the opportunity that I had in Dubai, I'd almost argue I was probably doing better then
Yeah.
than now. You know what I mean? And like a lot of people, it's funny, like me and one friend that spent almost as much time in Dubai as me, when we came back, we like came up with, we were like looking at our friends, we're like, well, our friends seem like they've done really well. Well, the inflation of homes, right? So everybody friggin' refied their homes, and it's like, oh, they made a whole bunch of money. Like we had to go across the world and do all this shit to make a bunch of money. They just fucking sat on their property, and let inflation do the rest. Although the difference, people cash out and remortgage their shit, and then they go spend all the fucking money, and then guess what? You're
Now
stuck
they're,
with bills to pay again.
yeah, now they're strapped.
So, oh yeah,
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm not smart enough to be able to maybe give you an answer to this, but like, I guess just paint the picture. Like, if you take where we were at in 2003, 4, 5, whatever, say up to 2010, and we felt as though like we were doing okay, or hell, pound for pound, as well as we are now, let's say, with less.
yeah.
So, like, what's the how much has it changed to like at what exponent has been applied to this from then to now to make it seem so unfeasible?
Man, it's like gotta
Like,
be
have things
more. It's,
tripled?
I don't know, probably a 2x. Because like I was thinking, like in 2009, before I went to Dubai, or 2010, I had a state job here in Texas, and it was 50K, and I left. I think I was at 75 Canadian at the time in Canada. So it was a kind of the same, but the difference is that in Canada, it's like, okay, you make 75, but we're taking this out for health and pension and da, 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 da. Whereas here it
Yeah.
was, no, you get 50K and you get your 401k, your health insurance, blah, blah, blah. So like in reality, it was like 80K worth of
Right.
benefit in the package, but you're taking home 50, right? Um, and that 50, my ex was here with me at that time, and she wasn't able to work due to the visa situations that we were on. But man, one salary, uh, living in like a real nice, luxurious 2-bedroom condo at the top of a fucking hill in hill country. Um, I remember, going trips to Mexico, here, there, wherever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing. I had my Lightning. She had a BMW. Whatever. And that was fine. Like I couldn't imagine like 50K ain't shit. I'd be fucking out on the street in like
Yeah.
3 months.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, these numbers to some might sound crazy, but like, just know that I guess in whatever way, shape, or form, they're all relative. You know what I mean? Like we used to talk in, well, I don't know, I guess maybe the 2010s. Like you pretty much where I was living at the time, you needed to make like bare minimum 100 grand if you wanted to live I want to use the word comfortable, but I know that word is sort of misleading. Like when you think comfortable, you think like, oh, maybe you have a lake house too. And I don't mean like that. Okay. I mean like maybe every other year you went on a trip to Mexico or something. You know what I mean? Like you're just,
I think comfortable is like you're not worrying about pumping gas at the gas pump or what the grocery bill is and stuff like that. Like you go out,
yeah,
you live
you
your
need
life
gas. You
without
get it.
like looking at what your balance is every day.
Yeah. Yeah. You need gas. You get it. That's probably the best way to say it. Right.
Yeah.
If you're going, oh shit,
Oh my
all I
God,
got
it's
is,
10 cents more. Like
yeah, or
that's
fuck, I
that's
need, all I got is $20 to put in. Yeah.
yeah.
I'm, it's the other side of that, right? But that number, and I mean maybe this is being a little fucking hyperbolic, but like I would say that number now is easily 200 if you
200
want to live
Canadian,
that.
right? Yeah, because I'd
Yeah,
say like, yeah, you gotta be a household with 150 a year. Like I know it's
yeah,
probably sounding crazy to some people, but like I want to say like Texas has its own tax. So, like I kind of feel like everything's 10% more expensive here. But at the same time, like vehicles, even for like I know, even shopping for, the wife's Range Rover, like it seemed like go to state, you save 10%. You know what I mean?
mm,
It's not just a Foxbody thing, it's just vehicles in general. Um, but at the same time, it's like, man, you can go work at Bucky's for 17, $18 an hour.
right.
Like you work at
Yeah.
Whataburger, you know what I mean? Or McDonald's for pretty much $20 an hour. Like in what world does that make sense?
It doesn't, because going back to my example earlier, like a 16-year-old does not need $20 an hour, you know?
No, no, they need to learn how to
Um,
budget. Like, dude, my first job was 685 Canadian. That's like friggin' what, 450 US an hour?
yep.
And that was enough living at home to fund driving a Fox body around and filling the tank and getting pizza and drinking beer. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Things have changed drastically. And I guess, yeah, going back to thoughts and theories, I mean, I think old DT there, he's bringing her back into alignment. And like I say, I think there's going to be some short term pain involved with that. Um, I do think, though, that like long term, it'll be a good thing for the country,
yeah,
especially when you start looking. And this stuff gets me out over my ski tips, but when you start looking at the whole like refinancing of the debt and like, and these are numbers that honestly you can't even get your head around, right? When you start talking trillions, I mean, I bet most people can't even tell you how many fucking zeros are involved in that. Like this is just astronomically big numbers. And then there's this whole like, percentage of GDP versus the, trade surplus deficit, blah, blah, blah. And I don't know. This is like the macroeconomics that made any gearhead's fucking mind spin if you ever sat through a class of that stuff. But anyway, I'm smart enough to know, like, I've heard the smart people talk about it, and I know it's not good. Like,
Yeah.
it is an unsustainable path that the country's on. And I mean, sounds like I'm saying this like from some fucking ivory tower up here up north. I'm not. We're way worse. Trust me when I say that. We've damn near got the same amount of debt with 10 times less people. So yeah, we're extra fucked. We're already off the cliff. But yeah, it's not good, and
No.
I think what makes the US special in my mind is, you know, I know everybody likes to reminisce about the good old days, and hell, we weren't even thought of in the time frame that I'm referring to as being the good old days, the 50s, the 60s, the whatever. But there definitely was something special during those times, at least from what I've heard. People gave a shit about their lawns. It
Yeah.
was like, it's kind of actually, goes back to what we were talking about with just common courtesy on the road. Like, people were more aware of, we're all in this together, heck of a lot more like country pride. And, you took pride in your work. I actually heard a podcast recently with, that Mike Rowe, the Dirty Jobs guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, he's well, after that show, I was kind of like, shit, I wonder whatever happened to that guy. Well, anyway, still kind of doing the same thing. Actually had a pretty big show on Facebook a handful of years ago. Facebook was almost trying to do like a bit of a Netflix thing, unbeknownst to me. I didn't know that, but and the show did really well. And he's, I guess it's probably how he even got into that whole dirty jobs in the first place. Like, he's just got this overwhelming interest in like, the everyday man or woman, like, and what do they do, and like, how does that all work? And doing all these years of doing it, he's now kind of figured out like, okay, this is a lot of the things we're missing. Like, he was telling a story about riding in this pickup with an iron worker, and the guy was just driving him back to his hotel after filming one day or whatever. And he goes, we're in the middle of bullshitting about whatever, say the weather. And he's like, oh yeah, you see that building right there? Like, me and my guys built that building. And oh, you see that one right there? We built that too. And all these little things that, when you think about it, if you've ever had a job or owned a business that you had a bunch of pride in, like, that stuff happens,
Yeah.
hell, even if you got someone that's a realtor as a friend, and you could be driving along with them and, oh, I sold that house. Like, there's this like psychological pride that
Yeah.
comes from doing something you care about. And he was kind of saying like, we've lost a lot of that. And how this sort of morphs into an even bigger problem is, there's really no sense of pride in those like basic jobs anymore. Like, nobody has pride in the being the Bucky's cashier. That's maybe a bad example. I think
No,
Bucky's
no,
probably doing a
man,
pretty good job.
no, because I think even like a server, you know what I mean, that waits tables and stuff, like there's people like that, that'd be a lifetime thing. And they'd be like, I'm gonna be the best server, I'm gonna get the best tips. And you know what I mean? Like there should be a sense of like, dude, even when I was what, 27 or whatever the fuck it was, and I was in Australia making Subway sandwiches, I was determined to make the best fucking sandwich that I could and make
Yeah.
it look as symmetrical and as pretty or whatever you want to call it as possible. So yeah, from whatever possible, whatever you're mopping floors, get the
Yeah.
water on the mop even or clean or get a cool swooshy pattern when you're going down the hallway with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's tons of ways to make any job and as dirty or as shitty as it might be better or
Yeah.
like with pride. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's it. It's just there's no depth anymore. It's like having conversations with, younger people. It's like nobody's immersed in anything. Nobody is like a true like knowledge. And I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I remember writing reports in high school, and they were like, you cannot reference the internet. Like, no fucking Yahoo, no Lycos, no, because like Google was not even around initially, right?
Yeah.
And then it was like, no Wikipedia. I mean, like,
Right.
that's go find a fucking textbook, go find a reference or whatever. So I was like thinking, I don't know why it came to my mind. I'm like, maybe with all this AI shit, right? Like, because AI can clearly write any essay for any kid that's out there. So, like, how do they send that in for possible plagiarism or like checks or validation or whatever it is? And it's like, I'm thinking, like, okay, well, teachers are now younger than us and they're probably a little like, what's the word? Don't have very much depth either. So it's like,
Yeah.
are they letting kids just like reference Google and, oh, this is what Instagram said? I'm gonna put this in
Yeah.
my essay. And then all of a sudden that's valid and a truthful source. Like,
Yeah.
that's what scares me. And not to say that people that were in charge of newspapers back in the day or the encyclopedias and publishing, but like I guaranteed there was a better vetting process of what was allowed to be published versus not. Because now
Yeah.
everything is published by anyone. Like, yeah, I want to write a book too. You know what I mean? I can write a book and publish it tomorrow, and that's fine. I just call myself doctor because I feel like it. I identify as one.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Jesus.
Kind of along the same lines. I was chatting with my oldest gal the other day, and she was telling me a story from school. And I don't even know if what I ended up telling her was like relevant to what she was telling me, but I said, you know what's really funny about this time in your life? And I guess I'm grateful and thankful that I can still draw memories on like when we were that age. Like, sure, they're getting foggier, but like I can still remember 13, 14, 15, like just various little nuances that have stand out to me, you know? And I said, what's funny is when you're that old, you think that, like the shoes matter or like the who's cool matters or like all this bullshit, right? And I said, as you move on in life, what you realize is like what you thought was cool isn't cool, or it's not even really all that important anymore. But I said, in specific to like the people that you think are cool. So let's say you know that gal in school and she's got the new shoes and she's got the nice hair and she's got the whatever. I said, that is not someone that you'll most likely be interested in spending any length of time with as you get older. I said that the person that you're actually going to want to spend the most amount of time with, at least hopefully, this is all based off the way I'm trying to raise her to be a good
Yeah.
person. I'm like, you're actually going to want to hang out with the kid that's in the corner that everyone's like, what is he or she doing over there? You know what I mean? And chances are they're probably starting a business at like 13. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they're what, like, when you think about it, like you're saying about people not having any depth anymore. It's like if you, I don't know, say get stuck in an elevator with a random person, and it's like, what do you do? Oh, I'm an accountant. Oh yeah, for who? You know what I mean? It probably just ends up going to a place where you're like, fuck, I'm out of questions to ask here. I guess I'll just pull my phone out of my pocket, right? Or, it's like, what do you do? Well, actually, I actually have this little YouTube adventure that I'm on, and I actually have this boom, ba boom, ba boom, ba boom, right? And it's like, huh, like I think most people would probably be like, wait a minute, go back to the start. Like there's all these things. Now I have all these questions. It's like I'm kind of the nerdy person now, right? But I think it's being nerdy and doing all of these things that makes one's life interesting versus, standing in the elevator with somebody with nice shoes and good hair. It's like, fuck, so what? Like, what are you doing? Like, what?
Yeah.
Show me some depth. Show me that you're actually interesting to talk to. you're motivated, you care about others, whatever, right? Maybe you're I don't know, fucking run a big charity, right? Like, how'd you get into that? Right? How do you even do that?
Yeah. Oh man, the world we live in. Sometimes I just want to
Yeah.
go to an island.
Well, I know, buddy. But like, would you, I guess you got to ask yourself though, right? Like, sure, going to the island. It's much like the retirement, like the fictitious retirement
Yeah.
thing that everybody
No,
used to
man,
think
like
about.
I say it, I'm too young for the island, but it's maybe it's just like, take a 6 month break or a breather. And I think that's the issue is like we don't get enough breaks this day and age to like really recharge or reevaluate shit. Like even me going through like I have all the best excuse in the world right now, my fucking health. And it's like, has anything really changed other than me feeling shitty on occasion? Like, yeah, I don't know, man. All comes back to like that reset button or like what's next or whatever else. Cause, yeah, I don't know. Things shouldn't be so weird or so stressful.
No, it's true. I do know that, well, I know you're a huge supporter of this style of thinking too, but like, definitely putting yourself in situations that are different than the ones that you're currently on, right? Whether that be holiday related or just trying something new. Fuck, go to the Dr. Pepper Museum, whatever, right? Like you never know what's going to come of that. And actually, um, the buddy I was telling you about that drove out from Temecula, California. So we went out with him and his wife the other night, and they, for a lot of the start of their relationship, were doing long distance shit. And um, we were kind of joking about like, man, you like the long distance thing, as much as you hated it when you were doing it, like it wasn't such a bad thing because like the sex was unreal when you seen each other, right? Like, let's be honest. And you don't take each other for granted with the time that you have, right? Because it's limited. So it's that whole like contrast, right? Like you need to contrast things fairly consistently, and that then allows you to bring what you got right in front of you more into focus, you know?
Yeah, I know. And well, me and Britt were like that for a long time, right? And it was the mix of traveling places or meeting up, and then yeah, you're like using your time wisely, or like you're hyper focused on being together and qualitative experiences and everything else. And then yeah, even our time in Dubai, we kept traveling, and that was kind of an amazing way of switching off from the day to day everything else and experiencing new things. And well, whatever, I always talk about travel and huge advocate for it, so that is something I think a goal that needs to be put in place, because man, it's like even the thought of taking a week off is like so stressful that it's like I don't even want to think about it. Nope, not happening. It's like that's why like Christmas Costa Rica last year was easy, because like, well, gonna travel normally, but screw the same old stuff. Let's do something different. But we'll
Yeah.
see, man.
Yeah. And Christmas is always a good time because like it's that standard holiday where pretty much everybody goes, okay, we're good here for a week or so. Like everybody go home and everybody take five. But yeah, I don't know. Or you can, find little ways to, I guess, factor more appreciation and contrast and focus into your day to day if going on a holiday is not realistic, right? Like people talk all the time about doing like, device detoxes and shit, which I've never done. Uh, I mean, I can probably understand how that would be a good thing to do, but I mean, fuck, most people have at least a park bench with a good view somewhere that they can go
Yeah.
to and like force themselves to just watch the fucking sun go down, you know? And try to get some contrast to your life through that. But yeah, you gotta. you got to remind yourself every once in a while you're doing it all. But we talk about this one quite often, but the Micro actually brought this up too, was the whole fictional idea of retirement. And he's like, what the fuck? Like, what even is that? Like, he goes, and he's asking, it was Theo Vaughn and Micro. And he asked Theo, he's like, do you have any aspirations to retire? And he's like, no, like, I'm kind of doing it, right? Like, this
Yeah.
is so much fun, and I like what I do and whatever. And I know I probably sound like a broken record. I always say, like, try to get yourself as close to that as possible, as soon as possible,
Yeah. Well, I
And
don't want to argue. I feel semi-retired. I just choose to keep extra busy being retired. That's all.
well, see, that's a good reminder though, too, right? Is you're like, if you can take 5 at night and be like, you know what, like, I would probably be doing this if I was retired. Well, then, okay, now you're starting to check the boxes of like living a retired life, right? Because, I mean, waiting around for your tea time till 2 in the
Yeah.
afternoon every day, like, come on, guys, that's not realistic. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe it is if you're super shallow and, you know, maybe
I
you're one
think
of those people
retirement,
that,
is like it's like a blue collar term. You know what I mean? Like if you're on the assembly line working all those years or whatever, you're in coal or whatever industrial stuff. Like, yeah, you're kind of doing stuff because you're supporting the family and you're doing all that. So I think like that the original idea of retirement is like, okay, dependents are grown, they're out, they're doing their own thing. You're probably a grandparent at that point, and yeah, you got enough where you don't need to go essentially bust your ass every day doing some monotonous odd thing that you're not really happy doing. I think it's just breaking away from doing something that you don't want to do is probably the best way to define what retirement is. Retiring from what something you don't like.
yeah, that's a good point. Maybe that's the new age definition of it. But,
Yeah.
you think about it, if you could, well, let's say you were like the coal worker, right? And you knew everybody on your crew and you were all the same age and you all retired at the same time, and now you got this like group of buds that, like BJ said, go for breakfast and whatever. Maybe you're all into cars too, right? So, this Monday we're going to Chris's house, Tuesday we're going to Gary's house, and just fuck around. That's a little unrealistic to think that could ever be a reality, but like, then at least, you're engaged and you do, because that's the biggest thing, I think, is like the minute that you go from living a busy lifestyle to just shutting everything off, you may as well go pick a gravestone. Like,
Yeah.
you're on a downhill slide quick. You got to keep the mind going. Like, you need something that you want to get out of bed for, you know? And at our age, it's, well, sure, doing something that's as close to what you love as possible is great. But, you're thinking to yourself, like, well, shit, Justin's depending on me to have this car done, right?
Yeah.
That's a motivator, massive motivator. Or whatever else, right? Like, there's all these things. But then retire, now what? Or even go on holidays, kind of like retiring for an extended period of time. Go to the island. Fuck. Well, I already picked coconuts. The fuck am I going to do now? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's like, I don't know. I guess I'll go
Start
fucking build a
carving a
raft.
canoe or something.
That's just it.
I'm gonna
You
make a
know,
boat.
well, and I think that's why these individuals, it's at least the ones I'm aware of, these stories, it's typically guys, but like, this is what makes it so impressive when you hear about this dude that's lived in like the fucking boonies of Alaska for 40 years. And you're like, what'd you do, dude? Like, you obviously ran out of books to read. You, you know, like, now granted, they're probably so fucking tired from just surviving all day that they just
Yeah.
fall into bed and then survive the next day. But
Yeah.
you got to
Shit,
have a
dude.
strong mind.
Yeah. To all whatever assholes that figured out how to survive in the cold of Canada, like, get bent. So I'll leave it
Yeah,
there. With that said, I do have a lot of shit that I still need. I want to get these yellow belts in. Not that I want to cut it short. Well, we're over 2 hours, anyways.
yeah, we did her.
But before we close out, do you think anyone noticed we snipped part of the pod out last week? Has anybody reached out to you?
Nope.
See, it's funny, right? Like sometimes it's not even worth mentioning stuff.
It's true.
So we
Oh,
will say, I'm going to say this. Last week's pod with Mr. BJ um, had many topics of conversation. And there was one that rightfully so was a one sided opinion. That one sided opinion, you know what I mean, is me and Gary being a host of something. Um, we're not here to create drama or stir up drama or anything else. I'll just say it resulted in a phone call with an individual. And after reflecting on it, as much as I didn't want to have the phone call, I decided to take it anyways because I feel like if you're a man, well, at least man up and give somebody um, the opportunity to have a proper conversation. It was a difficult one, but I managed. And spoke to BJ about it after the fact. And, even BJ was like, yeah, it might have been a little bit too much. You know what I mean? Sometimes we go out on tangents. And if I were in that individual's shoes, whether how I felt about the person, I mean, it's just one of those things. So me and Gary opted to remove, I think, 20 minutes?
yeah.
Yeah. So it was nothing too crazy. And maybe there'll be an opportunity in the future for um, two sides to come to light or share the story, if you will. So that's it. We usually don't edit, we usually don't snip it. But I think it is something when we're talking about individuals um, and having respect and being, I think this is coming back to a lot of the topics that we've covered today about trying to be a decent fucking human being.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, sometimes as angry as you want to be about a situation or whether you're right or you're wrong, um, I mean, do the right thing. I feel like we did the right thing. So we'll see. If you heard it, then great. If you didn't hear it, then it really doesn't matter. Go
Yeah.
check Facebook and BJ, and I'm sure you'll put two and two together and figure it out.
Yeah. True. Yeah. Well, on that note, ladies and gents, I guess we'll leave her there.
There we go.
All right. Have a good week, guys.